What is up? What is going on, everybody? I am back with another Seattle Mariners video. Before I get started, if you can hit that subscribe button and hit the like button for me, it just helps me out a whole lot in my channel's growth as I'm on the road to 2,000 subs. So if you're just someone that kind of casually watches, hit that sub button for me. It just helps me out a whole lot. And don't forget to smash like so this video can get out to more people off today. So I thought I'd make just a quick little video about where this 2023 Mariner team can improve and how can they improve as well. The trade deadline's come and gone. Obviously, there's no more waiver. I mean, you can pick up guys off waivers, but there's no more of those post-August 1st trades that we used to see sometimes, like where in I think it was 17 when the Mariners got Mike Leake in early September. Those days are gone. You can't do those trades anymore. So literally no more trades. It's going to have to be either someone gets released somewhere in another system, or you go to your minor league depth to add players. If you want my thoughts on the trade deadline, I got plenty of videos up on it. I thought they could have done a little bit more. I thought it would have been nice to maybe go get another reliever to offset the loss of Paul Sewald. I wasn't against adding another outfield bat somewhere in there to help out a little bit, and maybe another, just starting pitcher, because we're seeing needing a lot out of Bryce Miller, Brian Wu, Emerson Hancock. Now, I also don't think they did anything wrong at the trade deadline, and I want to talk about that first. I still 100% support the Paul Sewald trade. I have no problem trading depth from a bullpen to improve the offense, and I'll get into a little bit of that with the bullpen here in a minute. We're going to talk about that. Now, that wasn't to say the bullpen didn't get worse with losing Paul. That hurts the depth. The bullpen took a hit. In no way does trading one of your better relievers just make you better in the bullpen. I did advocate to go out and get another reliever. But guys, it was also really expensive to go get other relievers. Look at what Paul Sewald cost. He cost the Diamondbacks two good guys that are in the majors right away with Dominic Canzone, and Josh Rojas, and a legitimate prospect that's not 5 years away. Ryan Bliss knocking on the door. Jerry talked about there's a chance he's up in September. If not, it's not. We'll see what they do in the offseason, but it's not crazy that Ryan Bliss is his team starting second baseman next year. Long way to go there for sure. Let's not jump ahead. But, I mean, this isn't a prospect that's like, super raw and 6 years away. He's knocking on the door. That's a lot to go get a reliever. So, yes, I want the Mariners to go get somebody. But, looking around, I talked about a guy like Kyle Finnegan from the Nationals. Well, doing some research on that from some Nationals Twitter accounts and blogs. Those aren't the front office, so who knows? But they wanted a pretty good haul for Finnegan. Like, it wasn't going to just cost you some mid-level prospect. You're going to either have to give up someone major league ready, which in the Mariners position, I just don't think you want to do that, or a legitimate prospect, something you don't really want to do when you just traded Paul for that very reason. Now, maybe what you could have done, and they might have tried this, is get a reliever back from Arizona in the deal, very similar to how they got Joe Smith from the Astros in 2021. Now, I know Arizona needed bullpen help, so that sounds silly, but and I think he's hurt now, but maybe you try to get Austin Adams thrown in that deal. I know he hasn't been great this year, but another veteran arm that's pitched some high leverage spots. I don't know, just something like that. Maybe you could have tried to do, and maybe they did, and that just wasn't happening because Arizona needed the bullpen depth. Same thing for starting pitching. I can pound the table. They should have gotten Paul Blackburn or Rich Hill, but even the Diamondbacks GM Mike Hazen, he was talking after the deadline. He said, we tried to get in the starting pitching market. It was ridiculous for what teams were asking for starting pitching. Listen, with the third wild card, it is a lot tougher to make deals because you have so many teams in it now that the sellers are sitting there like this going, okay, yeah, you want our guys? Then we're going to ask for the entire farm. You want to go for a playoff spot? Then you better give us legitimate. Heck, Rich Hill cost the Padres a legitimate, I think the 14th best prospect in their system. I mean, that's not the end of the world. I probably would have been willing to do that too. But for a guy that's 43 and very, very average, doesn't mean he doesn't have value. That's a lot to give up. That's a pretty hefty price. So now I think G-Man Choi came over in that trade as well, but G-Man Choi's been pretty bad. So, it was expensive to buy. It was very expensive. So while I wish they would have done more, I also understand them being a little hesitant on that as well. And for guys that truthfully are just not, oops, sorry, something just popped up on my computer here. Not major upgrades to this roster. And I give Jerry and Justin some credit for being shrewd enough to sell a little bit in a market that favored sellers. This was a team that was in contention, was able to sell, almost in some ways get a little bit better for 2023. We'll see long term. I'm going to get into this and get better for 2024. Like I said, still have a chance to compete in 2023. So that leaves us with, where can this team get better? How can they finish? Let's see, what are they, 64 and 55? So that means we've got how many games left? Oh boy, put my math to the test. 119, so there's 43 games left. So how can the Mariners be better for the final 43? What can they do to make up those 2 games against Toronto? The division's still there. They're kind of hanging around the 6-7 back of Texas. Texas has been red hot. You knew they were going to kick the Angels' butt because the Angels have completely folded and tanked and given up on their skipper. Unless the Mariners are able to beat Texas 7 times the rest of the way, I've kind of moved on from the division here. Now, you do still have Houston, who's another wild card team you're 4 back of. I think that's possible if you can beat Houston. But mainly we're talking about the wild card. What can they do to put themselves in position to go ahead? The first and foremost is something that I have harped on for maybe the last 2 months. In all my videos where I've kind of gone more in depth on the Mariners, not just the post games, and talk about what this team can do. It starts with the current roster being better. That was the main acquisition this team can make. And truthfully, they've done that. Since July, this offense has been pretty solid. I don't know where it all ranks in baseball, but I imagine it's got to be inside the top 10 in terms of runs scored. They have been much better. And it's going to start with 4 guys I'm going to talk about here. The first one is Ty France. Ty France has been much better in the last few weeks. His current WRC plus on the year is 108, as opposed to last year it was 126, and 2021 where it was 130. If they can get Ty France to get that up to 115, 120, and that's a pretty big jump here in the final 43 games, you're back in business. You need Ty France up, and he has been. Had a great game last night. He's been playing better. That's more important than any deadline acquisition. Another guy, Teoscar Hernandez, who they kept at the deadline, which I was fine with, because I just don't think you were going to get back anything more than a very mid-level prospect for Teoscar. So I think they looked at it as Teoscar is going to have more value to us in this final 2 months of the season than whatever random prospect we might get back for Teoscar. Teoscar Hernandez in 2022, 129 WRC plus. In 2021, 132 WRC plus. I hate using the 2020 season because in my mind it really doesn't count, but a 142 WRC plus. It fits my narrative, so I'm going to use the 2020 season here. This year, Teo, a 100 WRC plus. As we know, 100 is league average. And Teoscar Hernandez needs to be better than a league average hitter because he doesn't walk. He's athletic enough where I don't think he's the worst defender in the world, but he's not a great defender. He's not a great base stealer. His value comes from slugging, from hitting the ball out of the park, from driving the ball. Did that last night. 5 for 5. I know he raised his OPS by like 19, 20 points last night. That's tremendous. Doesn't have to go 5 for 5 every night. Ty France doesn't have to go 4 for 6 every night with home runs and 4 RBIs. But these guys need to be better. If Teo can get that to 110, 115, again, back in business here a little bit. And again, a lot of times when people make these videos, they kind of go like, man, if this guy can just do this guy can just do this. And it's like, okay, you're asking for career years. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking these guys to still be below their career averages. They just need to be a little bit better. There's nothing that saying these guys can't have a hot September and August here and get going. So far, they've been better. Teo's been playing better his last few weeks. So is Ty France. Next one is Julio. I've probably been a little too harsh on Julio. I've gone back and looked at some of the numbers with Julio more in depth the last few weeks. That isn't to say there hasn't been some offensive with Julio this year. I don't know how else to clarify it. His WAR this year is 3.7. He's going to have over 4. He's going to have a WAR over 4. He's going to be 4 wins above replacement level, probably minimum this year, maybe 4.2, 4.3. For a kid that's 22 years old, that's pretty darn good. Now, we all want him to take that next step. That's not MVP level good. That's just solid everyday major leaguer. We all want him to get to that 6-7 win player. He's 22. I didn't check it. He's got to be close to leading the Mariners in WAR among position players. So time to take a little bit of a deep breath on Julio. But even there, WRC plus 111. Last year, 146. Imagine if Julio can get that to 120, 125. I mean, again, all three of those guys. And again, I'm not asking them to get to even where they were last year, just asking for a little bit of improvement here. Not crazy from all three of those guys to be a little bit better. And again, Julio has been. Julio's last few weeks have looked more, maybe even last month and a half has looked more like 2022 Julio. So if we can continue to get that, that is going to go a long way as well. And the final one I have is Cal Raleigh. Again, catchers are notoriously not very good hitters. So even with a 107 WRC plus, Cal's been worth 2.8 wins above replacement level. He's having a really good season. There was nothing wrong with Cal Raleigh. But a 121 WRC plus last year, again, get it to 110, 115. And these guys have all been better. Cal's been a little streaky. They all have. I think outside of Ty, all these guys are just streaky hitters. Like Teo and Julio have enough. They swing a lot. So that's always going to lead to being streaky. It's kind of something I said about the Royals last night. Like, why are the Royals just hitting the Mariners? Well, they swing so much. The Royals are a team that is either, they get that bad on the ball and they don't strike out a ton. Now, not Teo and Julio strike out a decent amount, but I'm just for the discussion, I'm trying to make a point here. They put the ball on the bat enough. Yeah, there's going to be times where they're making outs like that, and you can't even keep up with how quick they make outs. But every now and then, they're going to get a bunch of base hits going. Kind of the same thing with Julio and Teo. I expect them to be better than the Royals offense. I'm just kind of using an example there. Like, they're going to have slumps just the way they play. And a lot of stuff like, I had someone ask me, how do you expect Julio to get that on base up? My hope with Julio is that his walk rate is going to be similar to the way Miguel Cabrera ended up having decent walk rates. It wasn't so much that he had a great eye. It just pitchers became so afraid to pitch to him that he ended up walking a lot. I don't think Julio's eye is terrible necessarily. It's not his strength, but he should end up eventually in his career getting more walks just out of the fact that, like, pitchers aren't throwing him strikes essentially like that. So I think all four of those guys have potential to get better. I think that's why you didn't see this team make a ton of moves. And it's something I've talked about for a long time. The core has to play better. I could even throw Gino Suarez in there a little bit. I didn't, but you could add Eugenio. I don't have his numbers in front of me, but you could add him to that list as well. The biggest trade deadline acquisition this team can make are these guys playing better. And they have been better, but even a little bit better to make the next step. Now let's get to the one that everyone's kind of harping on, and that's the bullpen. That's the easy one to talk about because they traded away arguably their best reliever. I think it's fair to say they're most consistent. I think Brash and Munoz have better stuff than Paul, but Paul has gotten outs more consistently. Again, for the record, if someone likes the trade, I was very clear that the bullpen has taken a hit losing Paul. Not only do you lose a good reliever, but the depth just becomes worse. You now need other guys to slide up and slide into tougher roles. Now, the irony is those guys have actually done a pretty good job. Topa, Spire, Saucedo, the guys they've kind of needed to maybe slide up an inning, they've been lights out. It's been more Munoz has been kind of iffy. Actually, even Brash, despite Monday, has been really, really good. Matt Brash has given up one barrel, so meaning one hitter has gotten the barrel of the bat on the ball since like June 15th or something, unless one happened on Monday that I missed, which I don't think so. Even the hits he gave up Monday, Bobby Witt went down, got a great pitch. The Massey at-bat was a little frustrating. Brash didn't pitch him very well, and the rest was just kind of some BABIP stuff that happened. So let's talk about Andres Munoz. Listen, last night was not super impressive, and it's not so much like that he blew the save. Blown saves happen. There's no guarantee, Paul. I want to be very clear on that. Like, since joining Arizona, Paul Sewald's pitched in 5 games. He has a 6.75 ERA. I know most of that is from one outing. It's a small sample size, but we also have a lot of people now judging Andres Munoz on a very small sample size of his last 4 games and ready to throw him out. So if you're going to judge Munoz on that, then Paul gets the same judgment, So my point is just, and I love Paul. I'm wishing him all the best in Arizona. Truly, truly am. He's a great guy, great ambassador. I live in Arizona. I would love to go watch some D-backs playoff games and see Paul lock it down. I'll be there cheering Paul on more than anybody. I probably won't get to a playoff game, but you know what I mean? Where was I going with that? But there's no guarantee. And Paul wasn't going to pitch in all 4 games either. So you were going to have to go to Munoz and Brash here at some point anyways. Andres Munoz on the year, 2.53 FIP, 3.09 xFIP, expected fielding independent pitching, fielding independent pitching. Forget people that don't know what those numbers are. Essentially looking at it from contact, where the ball's going, without a defense, stuff like that. because defense can help you. You can have a really great defense and have a high FIP and a low ERA. A low FIP doesn't mean your defense is bad. It's just based on how Munoz is throwing. Those are kind of the expected numbers. Listen, last night was not impressive. I think I saw one swing and miss that Munoz got against, I think Melendez swung and missed once. I know the Royals aren't a huge swing and miss team, but Munoz should still be generating more swings and misses. Now, I didn't go back and look at all the Orioles series to see the swings and misses there. Listen, I thought Saturday was just kind of the ghost runner scored. It was a stolen base by Mullins, which, Munoz just doesn't hold runners on. He has a very long, windy delivery. Not windy so much, but just a very long delivery. Relievers in general just are never very good at holding runners on because usually it's just you're focused on getting that batter out. It's all about getting the hitters out when you're coming as a reliever, more so than starters trying to limit damage and stuff like that. And then there was a strikeout, a base hit. Saturday's on the offense. I'm not going to put Saturday on Andres Munoz. They scored 0 runs for George Kirby in 9 innings. The offense gets the blame for Saturday. Sunday, Munoz, again, I think it was Westberg hit that double. That was hit very hard. But even the rest of it, the balk is more just a mechanical thing. And it was a little ticky-tacky. I thought it was a balk, a little ticky-tacky. And then what else happened? A swinging bunt by a good hitter that, Jorge Mateo's just ridiculously fast, got home on it. Was he really that bad on Sunday and Saturday? I don't think so. I don't think he was. Yesterday, he was not very good. And he was out there throwing 42 pitches. He did not have a good feel for the slider. I know this is a very long-winded rant here that I'm going on, but I think Munoz is probably fine. Now, he probably needs a couple days off. I think he definitely needs a couple days off. And I wouldn't mind giving Munoz a more shorter outing, like last night. Have him pitch that 8th, and then I know Topa already pitched, but let's just say hypothetically, then you bring in Topa for the 9th, or have Saucedo pitch the 9th or something like that. Get Munoz's confidence back up maybe a little bit, because that might be hurting too. Let him get those couple outs, feel good, put someone else in there, then you still have Munoz available the next day. I have no problem with Scott trying to get a 5-out save from him. I did not like Scott leaving him out there for 42 pitches, but I didn't have a problem with it, but maybe just take a little bit of a step back for Munoz. Last year, 2022, FIP and XFIP were both 2.04. His strikeout rate is down a little bit. It's 12.25 this year, which is still really good, and 13.29 last year. The walks are up. In fact, the walks are up more than double. 4.45 walk rate this year per 9, 2.08 in 2022. Munoz has not been as good this year as he was last year. I can't I can spin my numbers and spin it all my way. I can't spin that. He has not been as good this year as he was last year. Does not mean he's been bad though this year either. Guys, relievers are volatile. They sometimes just go through stretches. After they traded Paul, that the 8 games they won, or even the 9 out of 10 they won, the bullpen was absolutely lights out. Truthfully, the bullpen was lights out last night outside of Munoz. Spire, Topa, and Saucedo all did a great job. It was just, unfortunately, Munoz had some struggles, and they probably would have gotten out of that if not for a bad defensive play by Rojas. But Munoz was not very sharp last night, regardless. But really, I think out of the 3 outings, last night was the only one where I was really like, oof, he doesn't look sharp. The other 2, I don't think he was that bad. I really don't. I think there were some weird circumstances, some swinging bunts, a balk, some stuff in there, a steal without him holding people on that make it look worse than it was. I think Munoz is fine. I would give him a couple days rest here, and then I would use him in shorter stints to see if that maybe helps. Matt Brash is just fine. I'm not even going to dive into that too much. I know he blew the save on Monday. Again, guys, blown saves happen. You want to come on and say, well, Paul blew his first save against Minnesota as a Diamondback. Paul gave up a game-tying home run to Kaiber Ruiz when they played the Nationals. Paul almost blew a 4-run lead against the Giants in that game in San Francisco. I absolutely love Paul. This is not – I feel like I've turned into bashing Paul. I love me some Paul Sewald. But, guys, blown saves do happen. Matt Brash on the year, 1.82 FIP, 2.78 XFIP, 14.82 Ks per 9. Brash is fine. The command sometimes can still be a little spotty, but listen, if Matt Brash had amazing command, he would never give up a freaking hit ever. He'd be the best reliever pitcher on the dang planet. He's already amazing. That just makes him, it's his one thing. Sometimes he doesn't know where that ball is going, with that slider especially. I think Matt Brash is going to be fine. I'm not worried about it. I'm a little more with Munoz just because I didn't see a lot of swing and miss. Brash is fine. I don't have any qualms about using Brash in any tight situations or anything. Yes, like I said, the command at times is not the best. It's going to be the one bugaboo with Matt Brash. So that's kind of my take on the bullpen. Now, there are some guys down the minors we can look at. Is there anybody they can bring up? I do think the depth in the bullpen is hurting a little bit. I like Topa, I like Spire, I like Saucedo, but if Munoz is not Munoz, and I think he will be, but let's just, maybe there is something up with him. The depth is hurting a little bit. Isaiah Campbell's been kind of meh. We haven't seen much of Ryder Ryan yet to say what he's going to be. Trent Thornton looks interesting, but man, has he been long ball susceptible. There is not much down in Tacoma or Arkansas. You do have Prelander Baroa. Worry a little bit about the command there. We saw him come up. Definitely has the stuff, but I don't know how quickly they would trust him in high leverage spots. Also down AAA, you've got Diego Castillo. His whip's over too. Listen, I know Castillo was pretty solid last year. Not amazing, but a decent reliever. I can't do it. I don't think he's the answer. You do have Bizzardo down there, the guy they got from the Orioles at the trade deadline. I don't know all his Tacoma numbers, but this year in the minors, 43, and truthfully, it's been Tacoma like 2 weeks. It'd be pointless to just look at that. 43 innings, 53 Ks, 12 walks in the minors this year, 11.01 Ks per nine, 2.49 walks per nine. An interesting name. Wouldn't be shocked if he comes up at some point here. Maybe for Campbell or Ryder Ryan. Just think someone that does look like an interesting piece that could help. Casey Sadler is back pitching, which is awesome to see come back from injury. So congratulations to him. We know how good Sadler was in 2021. He has not been very good in the minors this year. Minor league numbers, as I drop my pencil, for veterans are sometimes tough. Even Diego Castillo, let me pick up my pencil here. Sorry, guys. Even for Castillo, because here's the thing, we don't know what these guys are working on. Castillo may be just working on secondary pitches. Same with Sadler. He's probably just trying to get the feel back for being back on the mound and pitching. So he probably shouldn't look too much at the numbers, but it's hard to just say, oh yeah, a guy that hasn't pitched in 2 years is going to come up and help out big time. So I think your best bet is maybe a guy like Bizzardo can come in. Maybe Prelander Baroa, figures out the control a little bit in the big leagues. Listen, he pitched 2 innings. We can't judge too much on that. But truthfully, I think the best thing the bullpen can do is kind of the same as the offense. I think Munoz, you just hope he's fine. And if that's the case, I think you do have enough depth there. They absolutely need Andres Munoz. But if Munoz is fine between Spire, Topa, Saucedo, Brash, and Munoz, I think there's enough in the pen to be decent. So any other little things they can do? The only other thing I have on my list here is, do you get rid of Mike Ford? Mike Ford had an amazing July. Super fun. Truthfully, kind of helped carry this offense for about a month. His overall numbers are still pretty good. That shows you how good his July was. But man, is he slumping big time. He hasn't homered in forever. He's really not walking that much for a guy that I talk about can get on base. He's swinging and missing. I think his strikeout rate's been 50% the last month or so. It may be time to move on. He doesn't offer any positional flexibility either. He's a DH and can maybe play first in an absolute pinch if you need him to. But he's an all bat, no fielding player whose bat has not been very good recently. So there's a couple names down in the minors that could suffice to replace Mike Ford if you want to do it. Now, again, I think this is a very, very minimal upgrade here. Even if these guys are better, Mike Ford's getting, 5 at-bats a week. What is it? What's he getting? Maybe 5 at-bats every 5 games, something like that, maybe 6, 7. Not enough that I think this is this is going to put this team over Toronto, but just, look where you can improve the roster in any little way. You've got Zach DeLoach down in AAA, slashing 290, 379, 454 this year. It's in the PCL. It's a big hitters league. So deep breaths. 833 OPS, 18 home runs, strikes out a lot. He's a left-handed bat, so you'd still get that lefty, where you like Mike Ford being a lefty hitter, you'd get that with DeLoach. He can play a little outfield as well. So you get a little more versatility with him if you want to go that route. You have Taylor Trammell still sitting down there. Honestly, Taylor Trammell and Mike Ford are really similar players. They can occasionally run into home runs and walks. And then other than that, they're striking out all the time. The advantage with Trammell is, again, can play the outfield. So you can put him out there a little bit. Some positional flexibility with Mike Ford doesn't offer. Jake Shiner is down there as well. He was the guy that got actually the Jay Bruce trade from Philadelphia. By the way, Deloach is 24, to be 25 in a couple days. Shiner's 28, so a little bit older, not really a prospect. But he's having a great year. 251, 372, 458, 880 OPS again. PCL, 26 home runs. Problem with Shiner, he hits righty, and he's an infielder. He's third baseman, so he's not going to take Gino's job. Now, listen, I don't care so much about lefty-righty. If you can get an upgrade, you can get an upgrade. And if he's better than Mike Ford, then let him have a crack and give him some at-bats. But I think they'd probably like to keep the lefties up there. So Deloach and Trammell would be interesting to give them a shot. But again, we're talking about at the end of the roster here. I mean, these are guys that just aren't going to get a lot of at-bats. Maybe Taylor Trammell makes a little more sense because at this point, Trammell's kind of in that 4A player. I mean, if he doesn't get at-bats for a week, who cares? And then maybe pinch hit occasionally and run into one. That's why Mike Ford's still on this roster. You know, he can draw the occasional walk, get the occasional home run. You're down by a run in the ninth, put in Mike Ford, see what happens. But that's just a place where maybe they can look for some upgrades. We'll see if anybody comes along the waiver wire too that's interesting, that gets released or something. But at this point in the year, really not. We're getting close to September call-ups as well. So if anything, rosters are expanding right now, and teams are kind of just set. They're not going to really release a lot of guys right now. The only guys that are going to be released are, you have the Mike Fords of the world that get DFA'd. You know what I mean? So that would be about it. So we'll see what they end up doing there. No, you know, that's about it. I just want to make a quick video, just kind of go over where I have this team right now, where I think they can make some improvements, a little bit of my thoughts and some of the bullpen stuff that's been talked about a lot. So let's see what happens. Hopefully the Mariners can grab another win tonight. I'll be back with the post-game video. Please like, comment, and sub. Let me know what you think the Mariners can do to get better. And I will see you guys all later tonight for the post-game. As always, go Mariners. Peace.